In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
Welcome to Musings of a Cigarette-Smoking Man, a podcast where contemplation meets contrarian thought, and where everyday observations unravel the quietly shifting ideas and tides of society. I'm your host, Stephen Leake, a man who prefers the solitary comfort of a slow-burning cigarette to drown out the noise, a vantage point that allows me to peel back the layers of our rapidly evolving world. This podcast isn't about quick takes or trending topics. Instead, it dives deep, blending personal reflections, historical echoes, and skeptical inquiry into technology, government, and culture. Each episode explores the subtle and often unseen forces shaping the fabric of our lives, from the rise of surveillance societies to the silent march of innovations that alter not just how we live, but who we can become. My style is reflective, deliberate, and even a bit meditative. I often find myself in the crossroads between nostalgia and modernity, blending personal anecdotes with broader analysis. I don't shy away from asking uncomfortable questions or entertaining unpopular opinions. The cigarette in hand is as much of a symbol of quiet rebellion as it is a companion in thought, a steady reminder that some pleasures remain personal in a world rushing towards total transparency. In this spirit, the podcast is a space for listeners who appreciate nuance and depth. It's designed for those who want more than headlines, for professionals, policy enthusiasts, and curious minds fascinated by how technology and governance intersect with freedom and privacy. It's an invitation to slow down, reflect, and critically assess the forces shaping our futures. Preview of today's topic: Central Bank Digital Currency and Total Control. In this episode, we turn our focus to a topic that sits at the nexus of finance, technology, and governance. Central Bank Digital Currency, commonly known as CBDC, ostensibly heralded as the next step in modernizing money, promising efficiency, financial inclusion, and a seamless transaction. CBDCs come layered with implications far beyond simple convenience. But beneath the polished promise, there lurks the potential for unprecedented surveillance and control. Imagine a financial system where every transaction is recorded, tracked, and governed by centralized authorities, where cash, that once untraceable medium of exchange, is replaced by programmable, fully digital tenders. This could mean governments wield total control over personal financial freedoms, from spending behavior to eligibility for services. We'll explore what CBDCs are, how they function, and what they mean for the average individual, all while reflecting on the broader societal shifts that such technologies might accelerate. I will share my own impressions and concerns, helping listeners better understand not only the technology itself, but the subtle power dynamics it can amplify. So pour yourself a drink, light a cigarette, and prepare for a thoughtful journey into a future where money might not just be digital, it might be dominion. Clarity. In a world saturated with information, bombarded by opinions, and clouded by uncertainty, clarity is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. That's what Monarch Holdings International Incorporated offers the world: clarity in the midst of static and noise. Every day, businesses, entrepreneurs, and creators navigate a relentless barrage: market fluctuations, evolving technologies, competing voices. It's easy to feel lost, overwhelmed, unsure of the next step. The path forward can seem obscured, the right decisions elusive. This is the static that holds potential captive. This is the noise that drowns out innovation. But what if you could cut through that interference? What if you had a partner dedicated to bringing sharp focus to your vision? Monarch Holdings International is an innovative holding company registered in Nevada, built on a foundation of fostering entrepreneurial spirit, championing creativity, and advancing the principles of individual liberty and free markets. We're not just another corporation. We are a diverse ecosystem of ventures, united by a singular commitment to illuminate the way forward. How do we achieve this clarity? Through a potent combination of principled leadership and cutting-edge business intelligence. Our consulting services, for example, leverage the power of advanced tools like IBM SPSS, IBM Watson AI, and Palantir. We transform complex data into actionable, data-driven insights and clear strategic recommendations. This isn't just about numbers. It's about providing you with the profound understanding needed to make informed decisions with confidence, unlocking your potential. Our commitment to clarity and innovation extends across our diverse portfolio, from strategic business, market, and political consulting that empowers enterprises to navigate complex landscapes, to our publishing subsidiary, Monarch Literary Limited, which champions free thought, supports unique voices, and challenges the norm. We invest in technology app development, foster overlooked talent in music production, apparel, and support various freedom-oriented initiatives. Each subsidiary, while distinct, operates under our core values of integrity, collaboration, and innovation. We believe in empowering individuals and businesses to reach their zenith. At Monarch Holdings International, we don't just offer services, we offer a new perspective. We help you filter out the distractions, identify the opportunities, and build a resilient future. We understand that when you see clearly, you can achieve extraordinary things. We are redefining what it means to be a holding company in today's dynamic environment by focusing on what truly matters, unlocking potential and driving meaningful progress through principled leadership. Are you tired of the static, ready to silence the noise and find your focus? Whether you're an entrepreneur with a groundbreaking idea, a business leader navigating market complexities, or an innovator seeking a partner who shares your vision for a freer, more prosperous world, Monarch Holdings International Incorporated is here to help you achieve clarity. It's time to move beyond the uncertainty. It's time to see your path with precision. It's time to unlock your true potential. Discover the difference clarity can make. Visit monarchholdingsinternational.com to explore our subsidiaries, learn more about our comprehensive services, and understand our unwavering commitment to cutting-edge business intelligence and principled leadership. Monarch Holdings International Incorporated, cutting through the noise, delivering clarity, unlocking your potential. Let's begin by pulling back the curtain on this increasingly discussed topic. Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. At its core, a CBDC is essentially a digital form of a country's existing fiat currency. The same dollars, euros, yuan, won, or pounds you're familiar with, but in electronic form, issued directly by the central bank. Think of it this way. Right now, most of the money we use daily isn't physical cash. It exists as balances in commercial bank accounts, deposits. This is commercial bank money, a liability of the commercial bank to you. Cash, on the other hand, is a direct liability of the central bank. A CBDC would be another form of central bank liability, but in digital format accessible to the public, potentially alongside physical cash and commercial bank deposits. The idea is to provide the public with a risk free digital option akin to holding cash, but with the convenience of digital transactions. Central banks globally are exploring this, motivated by various factors, including the decline in cash usage, the rise of private digital currencies like stablecoins and cryptocurrencies, and the potential for greater efficiency in payment systems. Cash versus CBDC, a fundamental shift. For centuries, cash has served as a cornerstone of personal financial autonomy. It's physical, tangible, and crucially in- allows for peer-to-peer transactions without requiring intermediaries or leaving a permanent traceable record accessible by third parties or authorities. To use is, for the most part, anonymous. CBDC represents a fundamental departure from this model. While proponents might argue it offers the safety, quote unquote, of central bank backing similar to cash, its digital nature inherently changes the dynamics. Unlike handing over a physical bill, a CBDC transaction involves digital data. This data, depending on the design of the CBDC system, could be easily tracked, recorded, and potentially analyzed. This is perhaps the most significant divergence from cash from a personal freedom perspective, the shift from relative anonymity to potential ubiquitous traceability. Consider the attributes. Form. Cash is physical. CBDC is entirely digital. Anonymity, privacy. Cash transactions can be anonymous. CBDC transactions are potentially fully traceable, depending heavily on the system's architecture and policy design. Issuance. Both are liabilities of the central bank, but cash is physical while CBDC is digital. Accessibility. Accessibility. Cash is universally accessible, though declining in use. CBDC accessibility would depend on digital infrastructure and account requirements. Programmability. Cash is not programmable. CBDC, as a digital asset, can potentially be programmed with conditions or restrictions on its use. Existing digital money versus CBDC. Many people might wonder how CBDC is different from the digital money they already use every day through online banking, debit cards, or payment apps. This existing digital money isn't issued by the central bank directly to the public. Instead, it represents deposits held at commercial banks. When you make an online transfer or a card payment, you are moving a liability of a commercial bank. The commercial bank then settles its obligations with other banks, often using reserves held at a central bank, but your direct relationship is with the commercial bank. CBDC, in contrast, would be a direct claim on the central bank. This distinction is significant. It eliminates counterparty risk associated with commercial banks. If a commercial bank were to fail, your deposits might be at risk beyond insured limits, whereas a CBDC holding would be a direct liability of the central bank, theoretically as safe as holding physical cash. Now, let's turn to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum. These are fundamentally different from CBDCs. Centralization versus decentralization. CBDC is centralized, issued and controlled by a single entity, the central bank. Most major cryptocurrencies are designed to be decentralized, operating on distributed ledgers without a central authority. Value basis. CBDC is pegged one to one with the country's fiat currency, maintaining stable value. Cryptocurrencies are often highly volatile, with their value determined by market forces, supply and demand, rather than being tied to a sovereign currency. Trust model. CBDC relies on trust in the central bank and government. Cryptocurrencies often operate on a trustless model, verified through cryptographic proofs and network consensus. Purpose: CBDCs are intended to be a direct digital replacement or complement to fiat currency for everyday transactions and potentially large value settlements. Cryptocurrencies serve various purposes, from speculative assets to alternative payment systems, often outside the traditional financial system. Technology: while some CBDC designs might use distributed ledger technology (DLT) similar to blockchain, many central banks are exploring centralized database solutions for scalability and control reasons. Cryptocurrencies typically rely on blockchain or other DLTs. So, CBDC is neither the commercial bank money you use daily nor a cryptocurrency. It's a distinct form of money, a digital form of central bank money accessible to the public. Technical foundations, ledger systems. How would a CBDC system actually work under the hood? This is where the technical architecture comes in, and central banks are exploring different models. One possibility involves distributed ledger technology, DLT, similar to the technology underpinning cryptocurrencies. In a DLT model, transactions are recorded on multiple computers or servers across a network. However, unlike public permissionless blockchains like Bitcoin, a CBDC DLT would likely be permissioned, meaning only authorized parties, the central bank perhaps, commercial banks, could validate transactions or operate nodes. This allows the central bank to maintain control. Despite the initial buzz around blockchain, many central banks seem to be leaning towards more traditional centralized database systems. A centralized ledger means that a single entity, the central bank or a system it controls, maintains the authoritative record of all CBDC holdings and transactions. This approach offers potential advantages in terms of transaction speed and scalability compared to current DLT implementations, and gives the central bank maximum control and oversight. Regardless of whether it's a permissioned DLT or centralized database, the system would need to record every transaction, track ownership, and prevent double spending. The specific design choices regarding privacy, transaction limits, and access levels are crucial and will heavily influence the actual implications of a CBDC. Central banks promoting CBDC typically highlight a range of potential benefits. It's important to consider these from their perspective, understanding that the reality might differ depending on the implementation. Improved efficiency and lower costs. Digital transactions can be processed faster and potentially at lower cost than traditional payment methods, especially cross-border payments. A CBDC system could operate 24/7, unlike some current interbank settlement systems. Financial inclusion. A CBDC could potentially provide access to digital payments for individuals who are unbanked or underbanked, provided they have the necessary digital identity and infrastructure access. It could offer a public payment option where private sector alternatives are limited or expensive. Monetary policy implementation. CBDC could offer new tools for implementing monetary policy. For example, negative interest rates could potentially be applied directly to CBDC holdings. Unlike physical cash, targeted stimulus could theoretically be distributed more efficiently. Stability of the financial system. In times of financial stress, people might move money out of commercial banks. A CBDC could offer a safe haven in central bank money, potentially preventing bank runs. However, opponents argue that this could increase the risk of digital bank runs into CBDC during crises. Innovation in payments. A CBDC platform could encourage private companies to build new payment products and services on top of it, fostering innovation. Combating illicit finance. This is a major point. Because digital transactions are inherently more traceable than cash, a CBDC system could provide authorities with a more powerful tool to monitor transactions, making it harder to evade taxes, launder money, or finance terrorism. Every transaction could potentially be recorded and linked to an identity, maintaining monetary sovereignty. In an era where private digital currencies and foreign currencies can circulate digitally, a CBDC allows a central bank to ensure its national currency remains the primary medium of exchange in the digital age. These are the arguments presented in favor of a CBDC by many official bodies. They paint a picture of modernization, efficiency, and stability. However, as we will delve in further, each of these claimed benefits carries potential downsides or raises significant questions, particularly concerning privacy and control. The global landscape, initiatives, and pilots. CBDC is no longer a purely theoretical concept. Central banks around the world are actively researching, experimenting with, and even piloting digital versions of their currencies. The pace varies significantly by country. China, DCEP. China is perhaps the most advanced among major economies, running extensive pilots of its digital yuan across multiple cities. Their approach is centralized and aims for a broad retail use. European Union, Digital Euro. The European Central Bank, ECB, is in an investigation phase, exploring the design and implications of a digital euro. They have emphasized privacy in their design discussions, though the final form is still uncertain. United States digital dollar. The Federal Reserve is conducting research and experiments, but no decision has been made to issue a digital dollar. Various models are being studied, and political debate is significant. Bahamas sand dollar. The Bahamas was one of the first countries to officially launch a retail CBDC, primarily aimed at improving payment efficiency and financial inclusion across its islands. Other countries. Many other nations, including the UK, Canada, Japan, Sweden, and numerous developing economies, are in various stages of research, consultation, or pilot programs. Some are exploring wholesale CBDCs for interbank use, while others focus on retail CBDCs for public use or both. This global activity underscores that CBDC is a serious consideration for the future of money. Each country's approach is shaped by its unique economic, social, and political context. Understanding these initiatives is crucial for grasping the potential global impact of this shift. In summary, a CBDC is a central bank issued digital form of national currency, distinct from physical cash and existing commercial bank digital money or cryptocurrencies. It involves a centralized or permissioned ledger system and is being explored globally for reasons ranging from efficiency and inclusion to monetary policy control and combating illicit finance. The technical choices and policy decisions surrounding its implementation will determine its true nature and its profound implications for individuals. Historical context, central banking, and control mechanisms. To truly grasp the potential implications of central bank digital currencies, we must first look backward. Money and its control has always been intertwined with power, from ancient kings hoarding gold to modern central bankers settling interest rates. Those who control the currency wield significant influence over society. CBDC isn't appearing in a vacuum. It's the latest chapter in a long unfolding story of governments seeking to manage, direct, and ultimately control the flow of wealth. The genesis of central banking and monetary authority. The concept of a central bank, as we understand it today, emerged over several centuries, born largely out of the need to finance government activities, manage national debt, and bring some semblance of order to often chaotic monetary systems. Before central banks, money was a patchwork of gold coins, silver coinage, and promissory notes issued by various entities, often leading to instability, inflation, and outright fraud. The Bank of England, founded in 1694, is often cited as an early model, initially created to raise funds for war against France. Its role evolved, becoming the government's banker and the issuer of banknotes, slowly consolidating monetary power. The key shift here was a move towards a unified national currency system. The centralization replaced fragmented local or private money with a single state-backed standard. This wasn't just about convenience, it was about asserting sovereignty and control over the nation's economic life. It allowed governments to collect taxes more efficiently, manage national finances, and later influence economic cycles through monetary policy. From tangible to trust based currency. For most of its history, money was tangible and had intrinsic value, or was directly convertible to something that did, like gold or silver. This was the era of commodity backed money. A gold coin was valuable because of the gold it contained. A banknote was valuable because it was a promise to pay a certain amount of gold or silver upon demand. The 20th century saw a fundamental transformation, the move to fiat currency. Fiat money is not backed by a physical commodity, but by the trust and decree of the government that issues it. Its value is derived from the collective belief that it will be accepted as a medium of exchange and a store of value. The abandonment of the gold standard, largely completed globally by the 1970s, removed the last significant physical constraint on money creation by central banks. This transition from commodity backed to fiat money dramatically increased the power of central banks and governments. They could now create money ex nihilo, unbound by physical reserves. This power enabled greater flexibility in responding to economic crises and funding public spending, but it also introduced the potential for inflation and the wielding of monetary policy as a powerful tool for economic and social engineering. Early forms of financial surveillance and control. Even in eras dominated by physical cash, governments sought ways to track wealth and transactions, primarily for taxation and law enforcement. Early methods were rudimentary, census taking, property records, and later, requirements for banks to report certain large transactions or suspicious activities. The invention of accounting practices and the rise of formal banking systems, while facilitating commerce, also created records that could be, and eventually were, accessed by state authorities. Consider income tax, which became widespread in many countries in the early to mid 20th century. Implementing and enforcing income tax required mechanisms to track income and wealth flows. This necessitated a degree of financial transparency, initially relying on voluntary reporting, but increasingly backed by audits and information sharing between financial institutions and tax authorities. The Bank Secrecy Act in the United States of 1970, for instance, was a significant step in requiring financial institutions to assist government agencies in detecting and preventing money laundering, establishing record keeping and reporting requirements that laid foundational stones for modern financial surveillance. These measures, while often justified by combating crime or ensuring tax compliance, represented an incremental increase in the state's ability to peer into the financial lives of its citizens. Physical cash remains the primary medium for anonymous transactions, offering a degree of privacy that existed outside these emerging systems of financial record keeping. The march towards digital, from wire transfers to electronic payments. The post World War II era saw the slow but steady digitization of finance. Early forms included wire transfers between banks, still largely for institutional or large value transactions. The real shift for the average person began with the widespread adoption of credit cards in the later half of the 20th century, followed by debit cards, ATMs, and eventually online banking and payment systems like PayPal. Each of these innovations, while offering convenience, chipped away at the dominance of physical cash and increased the digital footprint of financial activity. When you pay with a card or online, a record is created. This record includes who paid, who received, how much, when, and where. This data is collected and stored by banks, payment processors, and increasingly tech companies. While not directly controlled by the government in real time, this vast repository of transaction data is accessible under various legal frameworks for law enforcement, tax purposes, and increasingly for commercial analysis. This transaction wasn't driven by a grand government plan for total control, but rather by technological advancement and consumer/business demand for faster, more convenient transactions. However, An undeniable side effect has been the exponential growth in traceable financial information. Cash usage has declined in many developed countries, making a larger proportion of economic activity visible within the digital realm. The modern era, combating illicit finance and capital controls. In recent decades, the fight against money laundering, terrorism financing, and other illicit activities has provided a powerful impetus for governments to demand greater transparency and control over financial flows. Anti-money laundering (AML) and Know Your Customer (KYC) regulations have become standard practice globally, requiring financial institutions to verify identities and monitor transactions for suspicious patterns. These regulations have significantly increased the level of financial surveillance within the traditional banking system. Furthermore, governments have historically used financial controls, such as capital controls, to manage their economies, prevent capital flight during crisis, and enforce sanctions. These controls often rely on the ability to monitor money moving in and out of the country. While implementing strict capital controls on physical cash is challenging, digital systems make such restrictions significantly easier to enforce and monitor. The rise of cryptocurrencies, offering a potential alternative outside the traditional regulated financial system, has also fueled government interest in maintaining monetary control. Cryptocurrencies, particularly early ones like Bitcoin, were perceived by some as a threat to monetary sovereignty and a haven for illicit activity due to their pseudonymous nature. This spurred interest in regulated digital assets and significantly in the concept of a state-controlled digital currency, CBDC, a potential culmination of control. This historical trajectory from centralizing currency issuance to moving away from commodity banking to building systems of financial record keeping and surveillance, and finally to the widespread digitization of payments brings us to CBDC. Seen in this light, a CBDC is not merely an upgrade to the payment system. It could be the logical, perhaps inevitable, next step in the long history of governments seeking greater control over money. Whereas current digital payments leave a trail with intermediaries, banks, payment processors, before potentially reaching government's eyes, a CBDC issued directly by the central bank could allow for direct real-time monitoring of every transaction by the monetary authority itself, depending entirely on the system design. Unlike the current system, where cash still exists as an off-ramp for private, untraceable transactions, a widely adopted or mandatory CBDC could potentially eliminate that option entirely. Previous forms of financial control relied on monitoring specific types of transactions or requiring reporting from intermediaries. A CBDC system, especially a centralized one, could make all transactions within that system visible to the issuer. This moves beyond tracking financial crime or collecting taxes. It opens the door to potential granular surveillance of individual spending habits, potentially linking financial behavior to other forms of data. The historical context shows a consistent, albeit gradual, and reactive trend towards greater state involvement and oversight in financial matters. CBDC possesses the technological architecture to represent the most significant leap yet in this history of monetary control, potentially offering an unprecedented level of transparency and influence over the financial lives of citizens. Potential benefits of CBDCs as presented by advocates. Central Bank Digital Currencies, CBDCs, have been championed by many financial experts, policymakers, and central banks as a transformative evolution in how money functions within modern economies. While skepticism and concerns persist, especially regarding privacy and control, it is important to first understand the key advantages that proponents emphasize. These benefits span the realm of efficiency, inclusion, security, and even monetary policy. Let's explore these purported positives in some detail. Faster and more efficient transactions. One of the foremost advantages touted by advocates of CBDCs is the potential for significantly accelerated payment processing. Traditional banking systems and payment networks often work within limited operational hours, can be plagued by delays, particularly for cross border transactions involving currency conversions and multiple intermediaries. These delays can range from hours to several days. CBDCs, being fully digital and operated on modern platforms, aim to facilitate near instantaneous settlement 24/7. Whether you're spending money domestically or internationally, a CBDC system could potentially enable the transfer to complete within seconds, a sharp contrast to current infrastructure limitations. Faster transaction speed isn't just about convenience for individuals, it also matters to businesses that rely on reliable cash flow and to governments managing liquidity in the financial system. By cutting settlement times and reducing reliance on intermediaries, CBDCs could streamline commerce and improve overall economic responsiveness. Lower transaction costs. Processing payments in today's financial ecosystem entails various fees charged by banks, card networks, and clearinghouses, and foreign exchange providers. These costs can accumulate, especially impacting low value and cross border payments. CBDCs could reduce or even eliminate many of these fees because transactions would be settled at the level of the central bank or its authorized infrastructure. The reliance on multiple intermediaries diminishes. Central banks could offer a more cost effective payment method accessible to all, potentially making small value transactions economically viable without prohibitive fees. This reduction in costs could particularly benefit small businesses, freelancers, and individuals who often bear disproportionate expense for basic financial services under current systems, like me, a small business operating a podcast. Enhance financial inclusion. For millions worldwide, especially in developing countries, access to traditional banking remains limited or non existent due to geographical, infrastructural, or regulatory barriers. Proponents argue that CBDCs offer a unique opportunity to bridge this gap. Because a CBDC can be designed to operate through simple digital wallets, accessible via smartphones or even feature phones, individuals without bank accounts can participate in the digital economy. Unlike commercial bank accounts, CBDC holdings would be direct claims on the central bank, removing risks associated with commercial bank failures. Inclusion could be enhanced by leveraging digital identity solutions integrated into the CBDC system, allowing users to verify their identities securely and comply with necessary regulations without needing a full banking relationship. Improve security and reduce fraud risks. Cash carries certain inherent risks. It can be lost, stolen, or counterfeited. Digital money, when properly implemented, offers stronger safeguards. CBDCs could integrate advanced cryptographic and cybersecurity measures designed by central banks and authorities, reducing vulnerabilities to fraud and theft. Unlike physical cash, CBDCs could also offer the ability to reverse transactions in case of mistakes or fraud, giving consumers and businesses more protection. Moreover, by reducing the circulation of physical cash, CBDCs might lower risk associated with carrying and storing tangible money, such as robbery or loss. New tools for effective monetary policy. CBDCs could revolutionize the way central banks conduct monetary policy. Currently, the central banks influence the economy mainly through interest rates and open market operations, with limited direct control over how money flows at the consumer level. With CBDCs, authorities could have more precise mechanisms, for example, negative interest rates. Unlike physical cash, which people can hold to avoid negative rates, CBDC holdings could be subject to negative interest to encourage spending and stimulate the economy during recessions. Targeted stimulus. Governments could directly credit digital wallets of citizens during economic crises, delivering relief rapidly and efficiently without depending on either intermediaries or complex distribution systems. Dynamic monetary tools. Central banks might adjust money supply or incentivize certain types of spending through programmable CBDC features. Such tools could make monetary policy more nimble, effective, and responsive to real time economic conditions. reducing dependence on cash. Cash usage has steadily declined in many countries due to digital payments, convenience, and technological advances. CBDCs are viewed by proponents as a natural successor to physical cash, preserving the central bank's role, providing the benefits of digital currency. This shift away from cash carries several advantages. Lower costs of currency management. Physical cash entails significant costs for printing, distributing, and securing, all borne by governments and sometimes banks. Enhanced hygiene and safety. Experiences during COVID-19 highlighted concerns over physical cash as a vector for germs. Digital currency eliminates this worry. Integration with digital economies. A cashless society is easier to connect to emerging technologies like automated payments, smart contracts, and the Internet of Things. While removing cash might reduce anonymity, advocates argue that the trade off yields a more efficient and modern payment ecosystem, facilitating tax compliance and combating illegal activities. Governments face ongoing challenges in collecting taxes efficiently and tackling illicit financial activities such as money laundering, tax evasion, and black market transactions. Cash can be used Cash usage can obscure these activities by allowing untraceable exchanges. But to be honest, most organized crime and money laundering is done by governments anyway. Governments face ongoing challenges in collecting taxes efficiently. Because CBDC transactions would be recorded on a central ledger, governments would gain improved visibility into financial flows. This transparency can make tax evasion more difficult by tracking incomes and expenditures more accurately, and to help law enforcement detect and disrupt criminal networks financed through illicit money movements, and reduce the size of illegal markets by limiting untraceable transactions. Proponents view this enhanced traceability as a valuable tool to foster a fairer and more secure financial environment, encouraging innovation in payment systems. CBDCs also hold the promise of spurring innovation in the financial technology fintech sector. By establishing a secure government-backed infrastructure, central banks could create a platform upon which private companies develop new services and products. Features such as programmable money could enable automated payments triggered by events or contractual conditions. Enhanced loyalty and rewards programs integrated with spending. Seamless integration with smart devices and digital identities. By providing a reliable digital currency base, CBDCs could foster an ecosystem of fresh financial tools tailored to consumers and business needs, maintaining monetary sovereignty in a digital age. With the rapid use of private cryptocurrencies and stablecoins, many governments fear losing control over the national monetary system. These assets operate independently of central banks and could undermine the sovereign currency's role if widely adopted. CBDCs offer a strategic means for countries to retain monetary sovereignty by providing a legal digital currency alternative, endorsed and backed by the state. This helps central banks ensure the continued primacy of the national currency in domestic and cross-border transactions, and reduce risks of destabilization caused by unregulated private digital currencies. It strengthens the resilience of the financial system against emergent digital competitors. From this viewpoint, CBDCs are a defensive innovation that preserves state authority over money while adapting to the technological transformations reshaping financial systems worldwide. Risks and concerns, total control, and privacy erosion. These are the arguments designed to garner public acceptance. But as with many grand technological and governmental projects, there's a shadow side, a realm of significant risks and concerns that often takes a back seat in the public discourse. This is the side that keeps privacy advocates awake at night, that worries legal scholars, and that fuels the skepticism of citizens wary of an ever expanding state power. This is where the promise of modernity clashes with the fundamental value of personal autonomy. Today, we peel back that surface and delve into the profound implications CBDCs hold for total control and the erosion of personal privacy. Let's be clear, the potential for control isn't an accidental byproduct of CBDC technology. In many proposed designs, it's an inherent capability. Unlike physical cash, which is inherently private and peer to peer, a CBDC is a digital ledger entry. And who controls that ledger? The central bank, and by extension, the government. This difference is not merely technical, it's existential for our relationship with money and consequently with the state. The death of financial privacy, unprecedented surveillance capabilities. Perhaps the most significant concern surrounding CBDCs is the potential for unprecedented surveillance. In our current system, while electronic transactions via banks and credit cards leave digital trails, these trails are managed by commercial entities. Governments can access this data, but typically require legal processes like warrants or subpoenas, often tied to specific investigations of suspected criminal activity. Physical cash, of course, leaves no such trail at all. A CBDC fundamentally alters this dynamic. Depending on its design, particularly if it's a centralized or permissioned system where the central bank maintains the master ledger. Every single transaction could be recorded, time-stamped, and geolocated if linked to mobile devices and tied directly to an individual's verified identity. Imagine a system where the central authority has a real-time, granular view of every coffee bought, every magazine purchased, every online subscription paid for, every donation made, every movement of value from one citizen to another. This isn't just theoretical. The technology allows for this level of tracking. While central banks developing CBDCs often pay lip service to privacy, the infrastructure itself provides the capability for mass surveillance. It's my opinion and been my experience that if these power systems can do it, that if it's available, if technology exists, they're going to do it regardless of the ethical considerations. Even if initial implementations include some privacy features, like pseudo-anonymity or tiered access based on transaction size, the underlying architecture means the central authority possesses the key to unlock full traceability. Policies can change. Technical capabilities, once built, tend to be utilized. Privacy advocates, like those at Electronic Frontier Foundation (EFF), which I have personally interacted with, have voiced strong warnings. They argue that a CBDC, especially without robust privacy safeguards built into its core protocol, not just policy, can become the ultimate tool for financial surveillance, far exceeding the capabilities of current banking regulations or even mass data collection programs. It shifts the default from private unless legally required to investigate, to potentially transparent by design. Consider the implications. Aggregated transaction data can reveal patterns about your habits, your health, pharmacy purchase, your political leanings, your associations, your consumption patterns, and ultimately a deeply intimate portrait of your life. This data, centralized and potentially linked to other government databases, Social Security, healthcare, location data, creates a panoramic view of every individual citizen accessible to the state. The historical context we discussed earlier shows a trend towards increasing financial transparency for reasons often justified by combating illicit finance and ensuring tax compliance. However, a CBDC takes this to an entirely different level. It moves from monitoring suspicious activity within a system of intermediaries to potentially monitoring all activity directly at the source. This level of ubiquitous surveillance is unprecedented and represents a fundamental challenge to the concept of a private sphere, which is essential for personal freedom and autonomy. Governmental overreach, the programmable and controllable currency. Beyond surveillance, CBDCs introduce the potential for active control over how citizens use their money. This comes primarily through a concept of programmable money. Because a CBDC is a digital token or ledger entry under the central bank's control, conditions or rules can theoretically be embedded within the currency itself or applied to individual wallets or transactions. Imagine money issued with an expiration date. Use it or lose it, designed to stimulate spending during economic downturns. While perhaps economically justifiable to some, This removes individual control over savings and investment horizons. It dictates consumption patterns from the top down. The potential for more granular control is even more concerning. Hypothetically, a government could program money to be usable only for specific types of purchases, i.e., food and utilities, but not luxury goods, or only in specific locations, or contingent upon certain behaviors. While proponents might frame this positively, perhaps for targeted welfare distribution, such as food stamps with programmable money, the same capability can be weaponized. Censorship of transactions. Governments could block payments to individuals, organizations, or even types of businesses deemed undesirable. Donate to a political opposition group. This payment could be flagged or blocked. Try to purchase content the state disapproves of. This transaction could be denied. This moves beyond freezing assets based on legal judgments. It allows for real time discretionary censorship of financial activity based on policy or political directives. Transaction restrictions. Limits could be placed not just on what you buy, but how much or when. Daily spending limits, restrictions on transfer above a certain amount, or even limits tied to arbitrary criteria could be imposed, centrally controlling individual economic activity. Punitive monetary measures. CBDCs could facilitate instant automated penalties. Fines could be debited directly from your digital wallet. Taxes could be collected automatically. In a more dystopian scenario, access to funds could be restricted or reduced based on non financial compliance. A digital social credit system wherein financial freedom is tied to adherence to state norms. This level of programmability and control represents a fundamental shift from the concept of money as a neutral medium of exchange. Money becomes a tool that can be wielded, shaped, and restricted by the issuer based on a myriad of potential criteria, potentially extending far beyond traditional financial regulations into areas of personal behavior and political expression, eliminating the off ramp, the end of cash and financial autonomy. A critical part of the concern is what happens to physical cash in a world with CBDC. Proponents often claim CBDC will coexist with cash, offering it as just another option. However, the economic forces and policy incentives could easily push towards a cashless society. Digital is often framed as more convenient, more efficient, and necessary to combat illicit activity. As cash infrastructure is removed, fewer ATMs, businesses refusing cash, and as policies potentially disincentivize and restrict cash use, it could effectively disappear as a medium of exchange for most people. The elimination of cash removes the last bastion of truly private financial activity. Cash allows individuals to transact without leaving a digital trace, without requiring a permission from an intermediary, and without the possibility of a central authority monitoring or blocking the exchange. Is it it is the financial off-ramp from the traceable digital system. Legal experts and civil liberties advocates highlight the importance of cash for personal freedom. It protects vulnerable populations who might lack digital access or identity. It allows individuals who support causes or purchase goods without fear of being tracked or penalized. It provides a fundamental layer of resilience and independence from digital infrastructure and state surveillance. A mandatory or near mandatory CBDC environment, coupled with the demise of cash, would leave citizens entirely within a system where every financial action is potentially visible and controlled by the state. Perspectives from privacy advocates, legal experts, and concerned citizens. These aren't merely theoretical fears. They are active concerns raised by individuals and groups dedicated to protecting civil liberties. Privacy advocates. Organizations like the EFF, the ACLU, and others globally have consistently warned that without stringent privacy protections, like true anonymity mechanisms, which are complex to implement in a centralized system, CBDCs could become instruments of mass surveillance. They emphasize that the design of the system is paramount and that default traceability should be rejected in favor of privacy preserving architectures. Legal experts. Scholars in constitutional law and digital rights question the legal framework surrounding CBC data. Who owns the data? Under what circumstances can it be accessed? What protections are there against its abuse by authorities? They argue that traditional privacy laws designed for physical or less granular digital systems may be insufficient to protect citizens in a pervasive CBD environment. The potential for warrantless access to a complete financial history is a major constitutional concern in many jurisdictions. Citizens and civil society groups. Across the political spectrum, individuals and groups concerned about government overreach view CBDCs with deep suspicion. They worry about the potential for social control, the ability of the state to penalize dissenting voices through financial means, and the fundamental loss of economic freedom and autonomy that comes with a fully traceable and programmable currency. Rallies and petitions against CBDC adoption often cite concerns about surveillance and control as primary motivations. These perspectives underline a core tension: the perceived benefits of efficiency and control for the state versus the potential costs in terms of individual freedom and privacy. Skeptics argue that claimed benefits, while real in isolation, do not outweigh the risk posed by concentrating such immense financial power and surveillance capability in the hands of the government. The debate isn't just about money as a medium of exchange, it's about money as a tool for exercising freedom, the ability to spend, save, and invest without constant oversight, the ability to support causes anonymously, the ability to simply exist and transact outside the watchful eye of the state. These are fundamental aspects of liberty that cash has traditionally provided. A CBDC system, if not designed with absolute and verifiable privacy as a non negotiable core feature, threatens to extinguish these liberties, paving the way for a level of total control previously only imaginable in dystopian fiction. How CBDCs could facilitate total control in society. This isn't about mere inconvenience to minor adjustments to how we transact. The technical architecture and centralized nature of many proposed CBDC designs possess inherent capabilities that could, if leveraged by authorities, become potent tools for monitoring, conditioning, and even restricting individual behavior through financial means. It represents a potential shift from government oversight aimed at preventing crime to systemic control over everyday economic life. This section explores the specific mechanisms through which CBDCs could enable such overreach, delving into hypotheticals and connecting these potentials to the broader themes of societal control. Programmable money and dictated spending. One of the most frequently discussed and perhaps most alarming capabilities of CBDCs is the concept of programmable money. Unlike physical cash or even digital currencies balances in commercial banks, a CBDC, being purely a digital construct under the central bank's control, can potentially have rules and conditions embedded within it or applied to its use. What does programmable money mean in practice? It means the money itself can be designated to behave in specific ways, dictated by the issuer. Consider these hypothetical scenarios. Expiration dates. Money can be programmed with an expiration date. Funds might need to be spent within a certain time frame, or they lose value or become inaccessible. This could be framed as an economic stimulus tool during a recession, forcing spending to boost demand. However, it fundamentally removes an individual's freedom to save or invest their earnings according to their own long term plans, dictating consumption patterns from a central authority. Restricted use cases. A CBDC could be programmed to be spent only on specific goods or services. Imagine funds designated for essential items, groceries or utilities, but not for non-essential purchases, entertainment, travel, certain types of food. This could be implemented for welfare payments, analogous to digital food stamps, but potentially applied for more broader control to regular income, but gives the state granular control over what citizens buy with their money. Extending this, money can be restricted based on location or even time of day. Conditional spending based on behavior. This moves into the realm of social engineering. Hypothetically, access to certain funds or the ability to make certain transactions could be conditioned on non financial compliance, paying a fine, attending a mandatory training, meeting a health requirement, or even adhering to social or political norms could become prerequisites for accessing or spending parts of one's digital currency holdings. The capability for programmability transform money from a neutral medium of exchange into a tool for shaping behavior. It allows the issuer, the state, to influence or directly control individual economic decisions in ways previously impossible. While proponents might present benign use cases, the underlying technical capability is a powerful lever for economic and social control. It fundamentally undermines the idea of fungibility, that one unit of currency is interchangeable with any other and can be used as its holder sees fit. Conditional transactions and behavioral control. Building on programmability, CBDCs facilitate conditional transactions where the ability to complete a payment is contingent on external factors or rules. Because the CBDC system knows the identity of the payer, the payee, the amount, and potentially the context of the transaction, it can check this information against a set of predefined conditions or external databases in real time before allowing the transaction to proceed. Think about current payment systems. A credit card payment might be declined due to insufficient funds or suspected fraud. A CBDC system could add layers of conditionality linked not just to the funds, but to the individuals involved or the nature of the transaction itself. The power to freeze and exclude, blacklisting without due process. In current financial systems, freezing someone's bank account or seizing assets typically requires a legal process, a court order, a warrant, or specific legal justification tied to serious criminal investigations or judgments. While errors and overreach can occur, there's generally a framework of laws and judicial oversight intended to protect individuals from arbitrary financial exclusion. A centralized CBD system dramatically simplifies the process of financial exclusion for the issuing authority because the central bank or its designated operator maintains the master ledger of all CBDC holdings. It possesses the technical capability to freeze or blacklist an individual's wallet or specific funds with a few keystrokes, potentially bypassing traditional legal checks and balances. This capability represents a profound concentration of power. It turns financial infrastructure into a tool for political and social control, allowing the state to silence dissent, punish nonconformity, or simply remove individuals from the economic participation without the constraints of due process that exist, however, imperfectly within current legal systems governing asset freezing. The ease with which this could be implemented in a centralized digital system is a critical point of vulnerability for civil liberties. The erosion of financial sanctuary, why the loss of cash matters. These mechanisms of control, programmability, conditionality, and the power to freeze gain their full potential impact when the CBDC becomes the only or dominant form of money. This is where the fate of physical cash becomes paramount. Currently, physical cash serves as a vital off-ramp for the traceable digital financial system. It allows for private, peer-to-peer transactions that cannot be monitored, programmed, or centrally blocked. Proponents of CBDC often claim it will coexist with cash. However, there are strong economic and policy incentives to reduce or eliminate cash once once a viable digital alternative exists. Governments often view cash as a facilitator of illicit activity and tax evasion. Businesses may find handling cash costly and inconvenient compared to digital payments. As digital payments become easier and potentially incentivized, cash infrastructure, ATMs and cashiers, may dwindle, making it impractical for daily use. If cash effectively disappears, individuals are left with no alternative to the state controlled digital currency. Every transaction, every saving, every economic interaction is then potentially visible, controllable, and conditional. The elimination of cash off ramp removes the last financial sanctuary from the gaze and potential manipulation of the state, consolidating all economic activity within the realm of central control. As central bank digital currencies edge closer to a reality, a complex and deeply consequential ethical debate has emerged. This debate is far more than a technical discussion about payment efficiency or monetary policy tools. It strikes at core questions about personal freedom, privacy, and the acceptable limits of governmental authority in democratic societies. The introduction of CBDCs has galvanized a range of citizen reactions, public protests, and intellectual arguments, sparking a necessary conversation about how we as individuals and communities want to relate to money and to the state in the digital age. Before we continue our deep dive into the complexities of central bank digital currencies, I want to take a moment to share something very close to my heart, a story and a business that shaped much of who I am today. Leak Furniture Makers, my family's furniture craft workshop. This isn't about mass production or fleeting trends. It's about pieces built to last decades, if not centuries, crafted within crafted with precision and unwavering commitment to integrity. Whether it's a custom dining table set to reflect your family's unique style or an heirloom quality rocking chair, Leak Furniture Makers combines old world techniques with contemporary sensibilities. What I learned growing up there goes beyond woodworking. It's about honoring values, patience, honesty, and the satisfaction of creating something meaningful. If you're looking to invest in furniture that carries a legacy, a soul, and a promise of durability, I invite you to explore Leak Furniture Makers. From our family workshop to your home, each piece is a testament to tradition and care because some things are worth holding on to. Now, let me introduce you to a writing instrument that embodies reliability and precision. Skillcraft U.S. government pens. For decades, these pens have been the trusted choice within government offices, courtrooms, and boardrooms across the nation, valued for their consistent performance and professional elegance. What sets Skillcraft pens apart is their impeccable craftsmanship combined with their practical design, whether it's signing important documents, jotting down critical notes, or expressing thoughtful reflections. These pens deliver a smooth, uninterrupted flow of ink that mirrors the clarity and authority every professional strives for. Beyond their functional excellence, Skillcraft pens carry a legacy of prestige. Possessing one signals a respect for tradition and a commitment to quality that resonates in any setting, from policy discussions to a creative brainstorming session. For listeners who cherish the art of thoughtful expression and appreciate tools that amplify their voice with poise, Skillcraft U.S. government pens stand as a steadfast companion. They remind us that even in an increasingly digital world, the power of the written word, guided by a dependable pen, remains unmatched. If you value craftsmanship and want a pen that speaks to your professionalism and attention to detail, consider Skillcraft. It's not just a pen, it's a symbol of authority, reliability, and timeless excellence. For those captivated by ideas, creativity, and reflection, Moleskin Notebooks stands as a timeless ally in the art of documentation. Known for their iconic design, sleek black covers, rounded corners, and elastic closures, these notebooks are more than stationery. They are a symbol of thoughtful engagement with the world around us. Durability is built into every page, with high-quality paper made to withstand pen, pencil, and even fountain pen ink. Moleskin notebooks invite you to capture fleeting thoughts, complex plans, or intricate sketches without hesitation or worry. Their compact size and robust binding make them perfect for carrying between moments of inspiration, whether at a bustling cafe, a quiet study, or on a solitary walk. In a podcast dedicated to critical thought and contemplating the evolving landscape of money and control, Moleskin offers a physical space to pause, question, and organize. They serve as trusted companions for note takers, strategists, and dreamers alike. Place, Places where ideas take shape, where skepticism can be pinned honestly, and where the nuances of complex topics find a home beyond the digital glare. If you seek to forge your own path through reflection, creativity, and documentation, consider Moleskin your enduring partner in the pursuit of clarity and insight. Monarch Holdings International is a distinguished leader in global investment and strategic asset management. Renowned for its visionary approach, Monarch expertly navigates complex international markets, delivering innovative financial solutions that drive sustainable growth and long term value for its partners and clients. With a robust portfolio spanning diverse sectors, including real estate, private equity, emerging technologies, and infrastructure, Monarch Holdings operates at the forefront of global finance. Their expert team combines deep market insight with disciplined risk management to identify high impact opportunities in dynamic environments. At the core of Monarch's philosophy is a commitment to integrity, transparency, and strategic leadership. They prioritize building enduring relationships grounded in trust, recognizing that thoughtful stewardship and adaptive vision are essential in today's rapidly shifting economic landscape. Monarch Holdings International, their influence extends beyond investment returns. They actively contribute to shaping policy discussions on financial innovation and economic development worldwide. By bridging capital and expertise, Monarch empowers businesses and communities to unlock potential and navigate the future with confidence. For investors and partners seeking a trusted ally with a global perspective and a forward thinking mindset, Monarch Holdings International stands as an exemplary institution, leading with purpose, execution, and steadfast commitment to excellence. As we navigate the complex and evolving landscape of central bank digital currencies, staying informed and engaged is not only prudent, it's vital. The future of money, privacy, and freedom hangs in the balance, shaped by decisions made today by governments, institutions, and citizens alike. For every listener of Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man, I encourage a proactive approach to not only understand the technology and policy, but to actively participate in the conversation and decision making processes that will define this digital era. Practical steps for staying informed. In a world, the world of CBDCs is vast, interdisciplinary, and often obscured by technical jargon and policy complexity, but staying informed can be approachable if you know where to look and which sources to trust. Here are some practical ways to remain current and critically engaged. Follow central bank publications. Many central banks publish regular updates, reports, and consultation papers on CBD progress and research. For example, the Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, and Bank of England maintain accessible websites and newsletters. Keeping an eye on these primary sources provides direct insight into intentions, designs, and ongoing debates. Read independent research and analysis. Academic papers, think tank reports, and investigative journalism often offer balanced perspectives, highlighting potential risks alongside benefits. Institutions like the Bank for International Settlements (BIS), MIT Digital Currency Initiative, and privacy advocates such as the Electronic Frontier Foundation provide high quality resources. Listen to diverse voices. Podcasts, webinars, and panel discussions from experts across finance, technology, law, and civil liberties broaden understanding. Engaging with contrasting views sharpens critical thinking and helps identify underlying assumptions and value judgments. Subscribe to newsletters and alerts. Specialized crypto or financial technology newsletters often cover CBDC developments in real time, distilling complex news into digestible summaries. Engage on social media thoughtfully. Platforms like Twitter or LinkedIn host active conversations. Following reputable experts and institutions provides updates, but beware of misinformation. Always cross-reference facts. As we draw this episode of Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man to a close, it's worth pausing to reflect on the complex and multifaceted story we've unraveled about central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. We began by exploring their fundamental nature, a digital representation of national currency issued by central banks, promising innovation, efficiency, and financial inclusion. Indeed, from the perspective of modernization, CBDCs could streamline transactions, foster greater access to financial services, and equip monetary authorities with new tools to manage economies more responsibly. Yet these promises come intricately entwined with profound risks and challenges. Beneath the surface of convenience lies a potential redefinition of financial privacy, where every transaction may be observed, recorded, and controlled by centralized authorities. Such a sweeping visibility into personal economic behavior threatens to erode a foundational pillar of individual freedom, the ability to transact privately and autonomously. Your role as a listener and thinker is powerful. By questioning, discussing, and advocating, you help foster a societal environment where technological progress does not come at the expense of freedom. The history of money is a history of power, and how we choose to shape digital currency will influence that arc for generations. In the haze of a slowly burning cigarette, I often find clarity in shadows. CBDCs are not inherently sinister. They are tools forged in fire, reflecting the intentions of those who wield them. The promise of easier, faster payments and greater inclusion is real, but so too is the danger that this new digital frontier becomes a cage. As you contemplate these musings, consider this: freedom's price is eternal vigilance. In a world rapidly digitizing its most intimate transactions, the quiet choices we make about what we accept, resist, or demand compose the map of our collective future. Stay aware, stay questioning, and above all, hold on to the small acts of autonomy that keep the flame of liberty flickering, even as the world shifts beneath our fingertips. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm the cigarette smoking man. We're gonna win.